you have to code. So no matter how your studies go, there is always a common issue, coding. And I think that this is where a programmer or a researcher in informatics or anyone dealing with the field of informatics should start, the coding experience. Is it worth coding? Is it easy to code? Or is it difficult? And where are these difficulties? That's why in the next slide I say that coder can be a blessing or a curse. Blessing is when you are given a task and you know exactly how to do it. And then when you do it, it works. This is blessing. The curse is when you're doing everything right and it does not work. And you have to debug. Lots of hours of debugging. Now, one thing that all programmers have in common is that from their early years they learn to think like that. And what does this say? Probably you have come across it in a course that you may have taken. It says that every problem has a series of steps that one has to take in order to come to a solution which hopefully will be the optimal one and he'll get the money, the greatest, the best grade or anything. Now, this process, this series of steps require some data that you have as an input, what you want to achieve, a result, which is the output, a process in the middle, and then the feedback is the step that tells you whether what you did is okay, is it acceptable, is it best, etc., etc. Now, programmers usually have a problem with this, because the process you follow to solve a problem or to deal with a requirement that the customer asks you, most usually this is the difficult part. I didn't have problems doing assignments, and most of the times it was 10, the result. But when I was in the business world, in the market, they wanted to do an assignment of double the size in like 1 week, 3 days. And then comes the process thing. You need to find a way of dealing with these requirements in the best way you can so that you don't cross or step on the deadline. Process is the nightmare of a programmer because if it takes too long, you start losing the sanity, your coding sanity, for which I was talking about earlier. Oh my God, my slides are ending. What a coder does not like is inventing the wheel. This is the basic thinking of a logical person that knows how to program. We do not have to reinvent the wheel and do things over and over again, things that other people or us have done before. Now, when I was in my postgraduate program, I had a lab, a C lab, and the task was for us to create a menu in C. I created the menu pretty fast because I knew how to program already, and I got a 10. Then I deleted the file, and the lab associate told, "You just did a very stupid thing, or you are stupid." I said, "Why?" "Because in the next lab I'm going to ask you to use this menu and do something else, and you have to do it again." I said, "Okay, you should tell it earlier." And he answered, "No, you should think it earlier." And I agree. Working in the market, this occurred to me many times. If you do something, you keep it. Okay. Now the hard drives are pretty big. You can keep everything you do. I mean, you have the photographs from everywhere you've been, and in Facebook, and in Flickr. You can keep some thousands of lines of code that you wrote in a lab. Maybe they are useful. So we don't want to reinvent stuff. This is not cool. We are losing time, and therefore, if we are professionals, we are losing time. If we are students, we are losing hours that we could do other things. Another thing that a coder does is putting together the pieces of the puzzle. And coders like that I mean, the greatest geeks have proved that they like putting together the pieces of the puzzle. Because when you have a problem to solve or a system to build, a software system to build, it's always some subsystems that you need to create and put them together in order to achieve a holistic solution, the end product that you're going to sell, if you are a professional. If you are a researcher or if you work for the academia, you need to create a software or an information system maybe for research reasons. Again, your research is not going to finish unless you do the project. And at this point, please let me say that I don't really see, I've been in the university for about 7 years now. As a student, as a laboratory associate, as a research associate, as a passenger, as a coffee drinker, I've been there and I've seen things. And then I've been a professional. I've done some software for companies, okay. And there was a common axis in those two. I had some requirements that I have to fulfill in order to get the thing done, get the work done. And it's the same thing for a programmer. A programmer creates stuff, implements stuff. What you're going to do with this stuff, it's irrelevant. You need to finish it and then you should use it to do stuff. So these two things are the basic fear of a coder. Not to reinvent the wheel and try to put the pieces of the puzzle together in order to achieve the best, the optimum solution, and therefore take the money or take the credits or take the fame. Here says, achieve coding sanity by reusing source code. I'll stop here and ask, which of you know what we mean when we say code reuse? Code reuse? Reuse code? Okay, let's start in a different way. Who is reusing code? Who would like to reuse code? I said that a coder, a programmer, has two fears. Not to reinvent the wheel and act based on a plan to finish a work, a job. But who is that would like to reuse code? First of all, the hobbyists. We are all hobbyists, otherwise we won't be doing programming. If you're not a hobbyist in the beginning and you're doing programming, someone forced you to it. Either kill this someone, or be a hobbyist and make fun of coding. Nevertheless, hobbyists are the ones that also invented the notion of code reuse. And they invented the notion of code reuse because they came at a point and they said, okay, we're doing the same thing over and over again. And it's boring. It's boring, it's not fun, and hold us back. Why am I referring to hobbyists? Because hobbyists, or geeks, or nerds, or regular people that like to program, are people that they are doing this for a living and for fun. I personally think that I have the coolest job in the world. I write code and create systems, and then these two things